Hello, welcome to the What's Wrong podcast. And in today's episode, we're planning on talking about racism in Bangladesh, which has been overlooked a lot. So, Niha, what's your view on it?
See, racism in our country has been there since the I think partition, and
The
that and
partition of India, that is.
yes, in the parts of India, like the subcontinent, and I
Hmm.
think racism was one of the biggest reasons that we had the liberation war because East Pakistan was neglected a lot,
Well, yeah. Hmm.
So that's I think one of the key reasons for us to fight for our independence. For example, start with the language movement when our language was discriminated, that our language was not being given the recognition it needed despite having a higher population. First of all, and nowadays if we start talking, I don't think it's gonna end. For example, even a guy with the color of, how do I explain this, like
A dark
badami
skin
color.
color.
Yeah, like even a like for like white thick one shade darker and you start being called
Like
black.
someone who's just a bit brown.
For example,
Listen,
mine
someone
or
with a
Rafa,
Yeah.
skin
like
color like myself would get extremely, if not directly, at least very subtly racially abused. Let's
exactly,
say let's say they tend to, they tend to just poke you about your skin color. They're like, you tend to have dark skin. How are you going to get married? This is a very
Guys, this
common way of
exists mostly
poking
in
people.
Bengali
About
households
marriage, actually,
towards women.
especially
Like
in
women,
arranged,
especially towards women.
I guess
Yeah.
you
especially
guys
in
know
arranged
that
marriages.
parents tend to poke their girls that you don't look good, you're not fair, you're brown, you're black, and then like be a hogana, you're not gonna get married. So yeah, it is quite serious. Like
Okay,
this doesn't
so
seem
about that
passive.
part, recently it kind of came down due to like all the like
Yeah,
our age people getting older, being more
I
mature
would
with
say that I would
our
say that
decisions.
it's because of the influence of Western media, where
Yeah,
it's like tanned women are like considered to be attractive, and I think it's because
bro,
of
bro.
that.
Let me just give you one example of how we
I'm
are
Mm,
not
as
gonna lie, I
people.
like a lot of tan
Let me
women.
just give you a perfect example. For example,
mm.
when the Black Lives movement started, like you guys remember it, obviously, right?
Yeah, everyone was posting about it,
Yeah.
It
being
was
And
a
like,
huge
"Oh, this,"
thing.
exactly,
yeah,
and that same person is gonna posting Black Lives Matter, support the movement and everything, and that same person after 2 minutes gonna go to his family like, "Ki ek kalar bachcha, kemon asos?"
Eh,
That's how we are.
They
yeah.
basically
It's like,
translate to, "Hey Blackie, how are you?"
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay,
it,
so
so personal experience. So as we're talking about like dark skin and like not so fair in general.
mm,
So this was like during my cousin's marriage. Okay,
mm.
like we were looking like how arranged marriage works.
You
The
guys
boy's
were
family
looking
goes
for
to
like
like girls'
a partner, right?
houses to see like what kind of wife he's gonna have.
Mm,
And in this particular one, the the woman there, she was actually good looking. Not gonna lie,
mm.
she had a
Yeah,
good like oh, a 10 out of 10 is what I would say.
but she
Eight,
was not
can make
fair
it
skinned.
8, 7, like that. A pretty good number. Okay, I just like made a shit ton of enemies because of that, but you get the gist of it, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so my aunt, this this
Oh, I
takes
know where this is going.
like my aunt does all the talking and all. Like we had a good meeting, and it was like a pretty peaceful one at that. Good thing it was peaceful.
Mhm.
On the way home in the car, she's like, "Nah, she's too dark for my kid." I'm like,
Oh, come on.
and I'm like looking at her, and as a kid, I wouldn't be able to say anything back to her because, oh God,
Yeah,
no.
that's how it works. If you
Yeah, yeah,
talk,
yeah.
if you stand
but
up to your relatives, you're basically an outcast, and you're, as we say, beado.
I'm already deemed an outcast, so why the fuck
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
yeah,
Either
So,
way, I'm
as
and
like,
you were
you
saying,
get labeled as Beadob in Bangla,
or
to
as a
Bangla
as in
delinquent,
someone who's like arrogant or like,
insolent,
basically a
yeah,
delinquent.
insolent.
We are deemed
misbehave
delinquents.
who misbehaves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
How do Bengalis define beautiful? You wanna know?
fair
for
skin.
Secret.
sure.
Oh no, wait, no, it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. It's like if you're tall and you're fair, you're beautiful. Secret
Basically,
code.
you're blonde
I
and
know, right?
you have
Anyone
blue
who's like
eyes. You look like a
above
mom.
average of height, he is deemed beautiful.
Beautiful. No one
Basically,
can stop
someone
you.
who looks kind of European.
Yeah, we have this.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Yeah, as I
Bangladesh, we have
mentioned,
this.
blonde with blue eyes.
Yeah.
No, it's quite true.
And
In this country, and in Southeast Asia in general, we have this obsession with Caucasian people.
South Asia. Just Asia in
yeah.
general.
Caucasian.
Bro,
Right.
like there are
The
videos.
focus
There
of
are so
Caucasian.
many. there's so many videos out there of foreign women visiting Cox's Bazar and a whole crowd gathering around
Yeah,
them.
just surrounding
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I've
Yeah,
seen that.
looking at
Oh,
just
I seen
looking
in
at
real
her.
life last year.
Yeah.
Bro,
Like,
in
it's
Yesterday,
Bosundara,
so
this
there
happened
was this
so fucking
Guys,
woman.
often.
guys, I have a like reason to this. You know why we prefer Caucasians? It is because of our mindset. The British colonial era has long gone, and days of workforce slavery to white masters have also gone with it. But subconsciously, we do prefer Caucasian, in short, white people as a race more. Like it's in our
I
heads.
mean,
We
I
do
mean,
consider them to be
I
superior
would
to
like to
us.
say that even before that, there
It
was a
was
lot
there.
of there was a lot of
Yeah, we
colorism in the
unknowingly promote white supremacy. Like we
No,
consider ourselves to
I
be
don't think
independent.
like that. For example, even before the British period started in our region, I mean the
Ye-
Indian
yeah,
subcontinent,
that's
India,
what I was
and
gonna say.
Bangladesh, even during the Mughal
I'm
Empire or
talking
the
about
other
modern
empire, even
history.
that time it was there. For example, the peasants were usually the dark skin and they were forced to work.
Hmm.
Even the Nigerian slaves, be it or the African slaves, they were treated like that, despite the fact that they deserve the respect. They didn't get it. Even let me just give you one example. Okay, in our country, I'm not gonna name the university. What happened? This guy came from a foreign land, and he was dark skinned basically. And everyone,
Hmm.
whenever he went to his classes or was in the canteen, people gathered around him and they're like, "Can I take a selfie with you? Can I take a selfie with you?"
Wait, what?
Wait, let me just give you that. This was in 2017 in the modern era, not even like on Age or long ago. It was very recent, just 4 years ago.
And it still happens. I mean, let's be
Exactly.
honest.
Even
it's
a
an
girl
age-old issue.
complained, and a girl like she was in the same university and she was living in the university hostel or something.
Hmm.
She complained that the police, without any reason, tried to raid her room again and again just because of her skin
Wait, I mean, legally speaking, they should at least need like a warrant.
They need a warrant, but sometimes a lot of them just
This
throw that shit out the
illegal and
window and
just
just like
wrong.
barge in.
Okay,
This
why are
illegal
we?
and wrong.
I have a thing. Wait, why are we even going for the fun? But think about the tribal groups of Bangladesh, for example, Chakma, Garo. There are many tribes. Even they are, they face racism to a lot of extent. For example, if a Chakma girl comes to Dhaka in a university, everyone will be like, "Oh my God, your eyes are so small. Are you Korean or are you Chinese or are you from
Acha,
Japan?"
That is
guys, I have a
extremely.
small incident. I have a small incident to share with you people about which happened in my gym a few days ago. So we have a few very good Chakma trainers, and
Hmm.
they have great physiques and great knowledge in health and fitness.
Hmm.
But it was very saddening to me that one day when I was working out, a few people, like I won't mention the names, I know those members of the gym. They were talking about a Chakma trainer whose name I would also not mention that I would like to quote what he said. এইসব মণিপুরি আর চাকমাদের কারণে আমাদের নিজের বাঙালি জাত কাজ পায় না, like could you
Wait,
could
so
you
Basically,
essentially
translating
he's
is
saying
that
can try
that
to
because of
understand
these
because
what's
of
people, we weren't
because of
getting any
these
jobs.
Chakma people and these tribal people, Bengali people cannot get jobs.
It's
yeah,
like
like they're
it's
literally
literally.
like I mean they're
Bengali people
genetically
do
well
not get
built and
jobs. Like, they are a part of our country. Their skin color might be a bit different, but they are a part of our country.
we must consider every indigenous tribe,
Hmm.
and whether it, like we should not differentiate between religions and races, but think about us as one. Like Bangladeshi should be the term given to everyone, and not who's
Naturally.
Chakma, who's Manipuri, who's Muslim, who's Hindu. So yeah, I
I
think
know
I
a
would
lot
love
of
to read that
people
piece.
from my childhood who are Chakma, and I used to like play cricket with them, cricket, football. They're
Yeah,
really nice people,
Yeah.
like very humble and very like low to the ground people.
you mean
Yeah, I
down
see
to
that.
earth.
Down to earth.
Yeah, okay. So I guess it's kind of visual that, like, when we see a person who doesn't look like us, who doesn't look Bangali, like the stereotype Bangali that we all look like, we kind of like, that gets into our head. Like, subconsciously, we're thinking, he looks different to
Hmm.
me. Like, he's different. Like,
A-
it's in our head.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
To
and
that, I
some.
would like to add, Jay.
Go on. Sorry.
That
Yeah, Neha, go on.
to that, I would like to add, even if we look in an actual stereotype Bengalis, even for looking like that, we are bullied. For example, a guy who's the skin color like of mine or Kashyap or Rafal, we get like, yalla, why are you so dark? You're not white. You're not gonna get girls.
And that's messed up because it's like most
Exactly.
Bengalis are like brown.
Other than skin color as well, there are many more ways we are able. For example, if a guy has a lot of beard, either people come to him and be like, "Oh, are you becoming a hujur or are you becoming a mala?" Like, why? Like, keeping a beard makes me a hujur
or even
like,
a terrorist.
I mean, that's a huge problem in Western European countries, and
I'm not
Tanzim
gonna
has
go
been
there.
raising his hand for a long time.
I would
Creeping into our country. as
this
well.
is something I go
Yeah.
through week in, week out. Okay? I go through this exact scenario week in, week out because I keep a beard and I'm a teenager, and a lot of people really close to me keep pointing out that I'm not at the age to keep a beard, and I'm not at the age to grow it out, and I look like a hujur, like a
And
like
what
a
is that even supposed to mean? I
like I
mean,
look
Exactly.
I mean, it's
and
like 90% of the people in this country are Muslims. So what is that supposed to
yeah,
mean?
and
Like, why is that an insult?
and I keep
Wait,
getting
no.
accused of being involved with terrorist organizations.
Oh,
Like,
come on.
yeah, it happens week in, week out. I'm not even
Oh,
joking.
Lord.
Okay, Nihal is raising his
Yeah.
hand.
Now to that, I would like to add. Now, the hypocrisy plays in this point. Someone who doesn't have a beard, they come like, "Oh my God, are you not growing or something? Are you still a
Guys,
kid?"
that happens to me. That
Are you
happens
still
to
a
me.
kid, man?
That
Okay,
happens to
Nihal,
me.
I'm
Are you
looking
a
at you.
man?
That
I'm
happens
looking
to
at you.
me.
Yeah, so yeah,
So see,
also
we Bengalis are the greatest of the hypocrites you'll ever find.
I mean,
That is
it's
absolutely
definitely
true.
true. It's definitely
100%. I gave all my fucking life savings
Guys,
on that
I
shit.
wouldn't argue on the fact that we ourselves are kind of hypocritical at times. Like,
Kinda, bro, extremely. Like
Li-
And we
really
guys
listen-
are even
racist
hypocritical by
ourselves.
ourselves.
We are
Listen,
really
it's
racist ourselves, but it's like when a Bengali goes abroad and he's subject to racial abuse, we are like really defensive
yeah, we
about
kind
it.
yeah, it's
start
just
doing
a
about it.
it's
No,
just
but
a sorry, I just want to say that all of us individually being racist is more of it's a product of the social system which we grew up in, and it's been drilled into our heads. That mentality has been drilled into our heads. We see someone who is different from our ideal stereotype of a human being, and somehow it threatens us.
Yeah.
Why?
I would like to add that a huge reason for this is Bangladesh is actually one of the most homogeneous countries in the world. It's like 98% Bengali, 98% of the same race.
Hmm.
So if you see someone from a different race, a lot of people unintentionally or because of ignorance, they have like this racist view and they get threatened.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, someone who doesn't look like you. Like, that is like,
Okay, so
really.
now Kashav is trying to speak.
So this is like from a personal experience that happened a while back. This is like pre-COVID shit. So I used to play football a lot, and
Yeah.
fortunately, I went and played with a lot of like Southern African and like other parts of African people,
Yeah.
As an African
Who-
exchange
like
student.
who came as exchange students or like
Yeah.
foreign students to
Yeah.
study here. So they were like, as I was playing with them, they were very kind, they were very chill as well, and they taught me how to play football and like some parts of football that I kind of was bad at. So
Mhm.
that's typical of me. I like as a kid, I'm not that. I don't want to be racist, so
I mean,
try to
you're
be
pretty
as-
open. You're
Yeah.
pretty open.
So
Story.
the juicy bit of this is that one day while we were going to play football, so like we stay nearby each other. So they come over to my place, I come down, they take me to the field. So that's what we always did. So on a normal day when we were going out to play, an old couple was passing by us and kind of disgusted me for a little bit that the old man that was walking by us said that, honey, look, these are druggies. Don't be
because they
around
were
them."
black?
Yes. In Bangladesh, most of the black communities deemed as like druggies or like shit like that.
Bro,
Yeah.
that's open
And-
harassment.
That's
And
like
what else?
and it's not like they did it like under their breath so that none of us could hear. He just
yeah,
like,
they said
yeah,
openly.
yeah, look.
Do you like
Acha, so guys, isn't it really funny that we are so loud about the Black Lives Matter movement in America, but forget about the fact that we ourselves are racists
Oh no,
Exactly.
this was like
Particularly,
before Black
Yeah, we
Lives
already
Matter. So
stated that.
the same person who's posting about the Black Lives Matter, he walks up to Insta and they're like, "Hey, Blackie, what's up?" That's what.
Yeah,
That
that
is
is like as
extremely.
I
hypocritical
mean,
as
it's
it
not
gets.
exactly the same thing because in this case, he was actually being racist to like a foreigner who was in this country, who's
Exactly. Yeah.
technically a guest of this country, and
yeah,
who and before that he probably had a positive view of Bengalis, but after that it would
He
just
lost.
But
completely
Sachin,
change.
he wouldn't have done the same if it was if that person was Caucasian.
I
So
mean, let's be honest.
yeah,
Of
let's
course
look
not.
Okay,
into this.
Kashav is trying to
okay.
finish what
So
Yeah,
he's.
let him finish.
as I'm gonna finish it, I confronted that old guy. That old guy is like 60, mid 60s, or like close to 70s, and I'm out here like 16.
Yeah.
So me speaking up to him was like a disrespect to begin with. But he just throw that shit out the window.
Yeah.
He already lost my respect. Either ways,
Yeah.
I confronted him and said, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? These guys are just here to study. Why do you have to like say that they're druggy? Do you know them personally? Shit like that.
Hmm.
And then the old man just like slaps me with like the typical Bengali
And
Insulin.
term.
How
Oi
can
biado.
you be so
Hey,
disrespectful?
didn't
Just
your
as like
parents
oi
teach you
biado. I'm
something?
like, huh? I
Bro,
legit
the
said
thing
it
is,
like, who's the fucking biado when you are the biado to them?
I mean, he was being disrespectful. Like he was
Exactly.
openly racially abusing them,
And then played the victim.
bro,
Yeah,
bro.
like,
Okay, so Nihal.
perfect Karen scenario.
Okay, so Nihal is
Perfect
trying to
Karen scenario.
Nihal is
The
trying
thing
to
is,
talk.
whenever
Okay, sorry,
someone older to us does something wrong and we want to speak up against it, we are labeled as the wrong ones, despite the fact that we are right. That's
And
a very big problem.
I would also like to add one thing because it's like a lot of the time, elderly people they actually say a lot of racist or straight up racist or at least borderline racist things, and if we say something against it, they act as if we are overreacting.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
basically a defensive response
You know
when
the
you're corrected. Like you don't want to admit that you were wrong, and you have to like stump it down, but at
it's
any
Yeah.
cost.
basically a
And then
complex.
Like,
It's basically
yeah,
a
that is what you do.
complex.
the
Mhm.
belief
It's a
is there
defensive
that
mechanism.
someone older to us is always gonna be right. Doesn't matter. See,
Which
at
is
times
messed up because a lot of our racist ideas it
come from
passes
them.
down from the
Exactly.
elderly
And
who basically say a lot of messed up things about people from other backgrounds, racial backgrounds, and religions. Yeah, Tansim is trying to say something.
Yeah, like what Kashav mentioned about the wedding, is what happened at his cousin's wedding. These are moments where we learn such racial ideologies. Like for
exactly.
example, I was at a wedding just not too long ago, and some people there again were commenting on the looks of the bride and the groom. They're like, I don't like how the groom looks, or no, the bride put on too much makeup. She looks too white. That's not her actual skin color. That's messed up, man. Why do you care?
As that happened, the guys like they weren't saying much to me because they were older to me typically, so they didn't say anything. But from the looks of them, I know that they were actually kind of hurt from that whole thing that happened.
That's natural. Obviously, they will be.
I mean,
Their race
obviously,
itself
Now,
was
just think of
insulted.
this: they go back to the country, and their friends are asking like, "Hey, how's Bangladesh? Should we come to study there as well?" And then what's their review
yeah,
gonna be like?
they're gonna be
They're gonna be
like,
like, it's one of the shittiest country with the worst racial slurs.
yeah, that's just like the it gets worse. Like people think that black people commit crime. Like the other day, it's like there are a lot of black students in my neighborhood because there are a lot of universities in my neighborhood, and it's like whenever one of them passes by a crowded place, everyone looks at them, and some people like whisper under their breath, "Be safe. He could commit a crime. The neighborhood isn't safe anymore." Like, what is that supposed to mean? He's just a student who's in this country and he's being nice, but just because of the color of his skin and because of his race, people have like this negative view that he's a druggie, that he's a criminal, that he could murder us, he could pickpocket us. Okay, so Rafa,
Yeah, as we were talking about like the stereotype that us Bengalis have about black people, that they might belong to a criminal activity, like they may be entangled with in criminal activity. I guess the reason behind this is a vast majority of illegal immigration cases in Bangladesh consist of black people, together with other South Asians, but black people are in a majority here, and it kind of messes with our head. We
Agree.
think of
They're
these
not
I
in
would
the
things as,
majority.
disagree too. I
I
would
would
disagree
disagree.
too.
I would disagree.
Me too.
That's
No,
like a common stereotype. It's not true.
exactly. For example, okay, if you say that, even I can. For
might not be
example,
true, but like
in
it
the
is.
foreign countries, for example, Dubai, be it London, any other country, Bengalis, what do? They go and they hide to get the citizenship and ওখানে থাকার জন্য, right?
Yeah, exactly.
তো ওরা তো
Who
চাইলে
are
বলতে পারে,
we to speak?
exactly. So ওরা তো চাইলে বলতে পারে পুরো বাংলাদেশি চোর, পারে না? Don't you?
Yeah, they could be like all Bangladeshis are like illegal immigrants. They could say
Exactly.
that, but
ওরা তো
it's
বলতে
like
পারে।
They kind of do
Yeah.
actually. They kind of do. I mean, it's the reason I didn't get citizenship, even though I was born in the UAE.
দেয় না, UAE, Middle East কোনো country দেয় না, by the way.
oh yeah, that's
That-
also
That is
another
also racist. That is
Yeah,
racist.
The thing with those Middle Eastern countries is that they only give citizenships to other Arabs, and they don't want Bangladeshis and South Asians in general. Yeah, and they don't want foreigners to get citizenship, even if they live there their entire lives.
Let me share this personal story of mine. My
wait,
own my father, he worked in the United Arab Emirates for well over 25 years, 2 decades. And he lived there for over 25 years. But after he retired, we had to come back to Bangladesh because he was living on a work visa and he was not allowed to get a citizenship only because he's Bangladeshi. And this is a very common racist stereotype, especially in the Middle East. They do not like Arabs, non-Arabs, that is, living in their country. It's a very big issue.
Yeah, they think that Bangladeshis are garbage collectors. Actual slur that I've heard about on the
Yeah.
internet.
It is.
Oh.
Okay, bro, why are we only talking about the foreign internationals who are in the country? Why not the people who despite being Bengalis, despite not being from the tribal disabled, for example, the Hindus or the Christians, even they are bullied for the religion as well. And in many cases, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of this. For example, the number of Hindus living in Bangladesh since 2011 is 8.5% of the total population. That is around 12.73 million.
It actually rose to 9%.
For example, even in a lot of places, they are bullied, or they face racial comment. For example, for being Hindus, there are places, or not places, actually many states in Bangladesh where Hindus get killed or get bullied, or they're forced to move out of their places where they live just because they are in a minority in that particular area.
Yeah, and this has happened a lot. It's like communal violence just in South Asia is like high, and this actually was like this actually happened the most during like the Pakistani era, especially during the 1964 East Pakistan riots, where a lot of Hindus were massacred, they were murdered, their houses were raided, and especially during the Liberation War, where
Why not we talk also about the fact during the migration, even Muslims were killed by the Hindus and Hindus were killed by the Muslims.
After the partition. Yeah, after the partition, in 1947, one of the largest migrations of all time took place. Millions of people were displaced. Like millions of Hindus in Pakistan had to flee to India because Pakistanis started massacring Hindus, and millions of Muslims in India had to flee India into Pakistan because Indians were massacring Muslims. Like
it's like just in general the partition. Like there's this delicate balance like of like communal belonging where it's like Muslims and Hindus stay together, but the partition just messed it up and just ruined the balance.
Yeah, the partition was made on religious lines. What do you expect? To be honest,
this issue was actually created by the British. They followed the rule of divide and rule. So they divided the two communities so that it was easier for them to rule.
Policy.
Yeah. For example, it's like during the British era, there were separate seats for Muslims and Hindus. So essentially, they became political rivals.
It was a very smart move by them, I believe.
Basically, they realized at one point that they could not continue to rule the subcontinent because of all the chaos, and they decided to pitch us against each other on the
Yeah.
basis of religious grounds, because it's the most sensitive issue, and and that succeeded. We became rivals against each other. It caused intercommunal violence, racism, colorism, all of these issues. And even within religions, like even within castes, there is also a lot of violence between higher castes and lower castes, where they treat the lower castes like slaves and peasant workers.
Yeah. So Kashav is trying to speak. He
Okay,
has something to
so
say.
it's like all history and all, but I'm gonna say something that happened quite recently during the
Hmm.
Durga Puja this year.
Before we move on to that topic, I would like to add that for those who don't know, like earlier this year during the Durga Puja celebrations, apparently a man kept a Quran in like a
Under the foot of a statue.
yeah,
Like under the
during
base of a statue.
yeah, in a temple, and that caused communal riots in Kumila and in a lot of other areas, and it was actually disgusting what happened
Okay,
just
so
because
The
of that
worst part is
incident.
the man just did that to create a fight between the Hindus and the Muslims. That was his main purpose.
Hmm.
that's debatable at that. Could be political, could be other types.
Actually, later it was found out that the man who did it, he was actually mentally unstable.
He was mentally unstable and on on intoxicants. He was intoxicated while doing it.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened is that, like, this is like a few stories of like few Hindu families during that time.
Hmm.
The fucking horrendous time for like a modern era country. So
yeah, for something that
happened.
was so
A
fucking
lot of
recent.
Muslim, like diehard Muslims, basically is what you're gonna deem them as.
Radicals,
Radicals,
yeah.
they
fundamentalists.
came out, they broke down a lot of statues and went to like mundirs and like ravaged everything.
Yeah, like they basically thought that, like, because of this issue, a lot of these radical Muslims, they thought that their religion was being attacked, and they took it personally and ended up rioting against Hindus as a whole.
Bro, if
Yeah.
it was done against the Hindus, some Muslim guy took up Bhagavad Gita and did something like that, even they would have done the same.
I would
Yes,
like to argue
yeah,
that, guys, I would like to argue that if anything, the Hindus should have been offended because someone put a Quran under
Exactly.
the statue of
Yeah,
their
no,
No, it
God.
was
Hindus should be
also
the
offending
one
for the
offended
Muslims
from this
because
shit.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
no.
Like the Hindu Association of Bangladesh, they basically tweeted saying that we know Muslims don't do this, we know that Muslims don't support this, and such intercommunal violence is not tolerated by anyone. And so, but like in a scenario where they're the ones who should have been offended, they're the ones who stood up for us.
Yeah.
Like we should be grateful that they stood up for us.
Or
Or
else it
maybe-
could have sparked a much larger
Yeah.
violent
It could have eventually led to a civil war in
civil
Bangladesh.
war.
And the person who did it actually wanted that, but luckily it didn't happen. So it was nice.
He was mentally
Motherfucker
unstable.
was on drugs while doing that shit.
Yeah, he was mentally unstable. He also fucking stole. Like Hanuman has like the what's the term for it? Like
That weapon.
Yeah, that weapon. He stole it. Basically, Hanuman's bhala. He actually stole it and ran off with it.
During that time, yes, we had riots, we had raidings in like mundirs. Okay, that's like the typical stuff you see day in day out, right?
Hmm.
Problem starts when radicals take it a bit too far. And you know how did they take it too far?
How?
They went and hunted down Hindu families. I think it was in like Rajshahi, right?
I'm not sure, but go on.
I forgot the region, so don't quote me on that
It
stuff.
mostly happened in Kumilla.
Yeah, Communal. So around
Yeah.
that region,
Hmm.
the radicals hunted down Hindu families. They on the spot slaughtered the guys and raped the woman. A 10-year-old girl was raped by Muslim radicals Does that sound right?
Disgusting.
Does that
Does
sound
that
fucking
sound right? Kashav, you're struggling to say it. You tell me.
Exactly. But it's
Even,
it's not
like for
I
like a
think
dead ass soul like mine, it's even hard for me to say it. It's like
Yeah,
I'm
I
the
would.
bad.
word disgusting seems I'm like
Disgusting is an
let's
understatement.
understand me. Yeah.
It's
Look,
inhumane. It's inhumane.
look, guys, the reason for this is like, although the government takes a lot of measures to protect the minorities, in like the countryside, there aren't enough police officers, and in the countryside, stuff like this still happens, and we have to work against it.
Yeah, like even in the cities, such racism is more subtle. Like, maybe
It's
what
more like
Behind their back.
backhanded racism.
it's more
So
backhanded.
I would like to add, for example, the government actually took measures. For example,
Hmm.
they implemented laws like the International Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, and also and also they took steps under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and Racism. So the government actually took a lot of steps and measures to stop this, but they can't reach every household and every single
Yeah.
kids. It's also up to the people like us to stop it.
And
But
Yeah, and
it's
I
the
would
problem
also
with
like
this
to
scenario was
add.
it was not like one or two families; it was multiple families.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
the reason for this is because in the rural areas, a lot of villages are like under policed. Like in a lot of cases, only 20 police officers are there for like a million people, and it's impossible to protect everybody. If a lot of people are going against them, it's
And most of the
really
time, it's not even the
difficult.
police that's
yeah.
doing the law enforcement there. It's the own villagers that are doing the law
Yeah,
enforcement.
I would like to say that a lot of villagers actually helped the Hindus. A lot of Muslim villagers actually fought against the radicals, and there were a lot of fights, and it's like that actually prevented a lot of damage from happening, which
But
could have
still, a
been
lot of damage was
real.
done.
Yeah,
Like
which
And
was
we are all
unfortunate.
like Muslims here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah,
We were
Even
born to
like
Muslim
thinking like
families.
how could another Muslim do that to someone else is hard. Like it's hard.
Yeah,
Like,
How?
let me
yeah.
just say something. Let me just say the actual thing. See, an actual Muslim guy or even a woman will never do something like this. Never. Who actually knows the religion, who actually follows it, will never do something like that.
and
And
bes-
all of
and
us know it.
and besides, it's not just that. Anybody with basic common sense, with basic morals, will never do that.
I
See,
Anyone with like a brain cell count of more
see,
than 10.
Islam is the religion of peace, and it's stated, and it's haram to kill a person. Lakat, it's in the Quran. So
It's haram. It's even
exactly,
haram to like harass someone.
exactly. So
much less kill and rape them.
anyone who actually has the knowledge of the religion will never do something like this.
I would like to add that a lot of people have this view that Hindus are greedy, and it's like this was actually exacerbated during like the Pakistan era. I would like to point to like this law, like this awful law, which happened in both sides, like in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India during the partition. It was called the Vested Property Act or the Enemy Property Act. Essentially, all of the minority communities who had to move out, they left their land behind. Like a lot
Yeah.
of them were like landlords who had property. So essentially, let's say a Hindu moved out of Pakistan, the government could actually take over their property. And this actually happened during the Liberation War. A lot of Hindus moved out and they returned. But the thing is, the corrupt governments that came afterwards, they saw this as an opportunity to take land. A lot of political people took over the lands of Hindus. And and this has resulted in a lot of Hindus losing their ancestral land, which they deserve in a secular country like Bangladesh.
Okay, bro. The thing is, one of the reasons. Also, have you seen the riots in India where many Muslims were killed without any reason by the Hindus?
The most famous of these riots
Same
was
thing, radicals.
The Gujarat riots, which happened in 2002 in the
Yeah.
home state of the current prime minister.
Bro, the thing is, it's everywhere. Religion
Guys,
nowadays.
guys, I have something to add to this. Like a long time ago, when like the partition happened, and people like this was one of the biggest migrations in like at that time. And one of my grandfathers, like my grandmom's father, he migrated to Bangladesh from India, like at that time it was like East Pakistan.
Mhm.
So he had to migrate here because his land, his property, his assets were taken over by his friend, so-called best friend, who was Hindu, and they were basically taking over all the lands of Muslims living in that colony and that area. So it happened both ways. I would just like want to mention that. Like
But
in, it was
but
like
even
horrific and
okay, I would like to
yeah.
say that it's like horrific what happened, but the thing is, like, if we keep on concentrating on what happened in the past, this is not gonna end.
Exactly.
Personal story time.
Yeah,
Another one.
sure.
So this was like during my school years. Okay, I
Mhm.
think it was in like grade 1, 2, or 3. I don't remember, but this one time my sister came to my school to pick me up for my typical half yearly grades, and also it was
Yeah.
a normal school. The next day I come to school, everyone asked me like, "Yo, why is your sister so fairer than you?" And
What?
yeah, like who's the fair? Why is she fairer than me? And why you have like a 9-year age difference? Are you adopted? So another reason for that one is like I have like pretty like
East
see like
Asian eyes.
East Asian eyes.
Like
So
basically eyes which resemble Southeast Asians.
yeah, so
Southeast
kind
Asian like.
kind kind of brought it to myself, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've naturally have these kinds of eyes, and doesn't match my mom as much, but either way, so they they said like, who's the adopted one, you or your sister? I'm like, yeah. The only response I could give at the time was that at least I was wanted, unlike you guys.
That is honestly a very appropriate response, because like, look, hearing such things as a kid, actually, like, to us it may seem funny talking about it, but for a lot of people it's kind of scarring, you know
It
like
I
like
would like to give
seriously,
an
I know a
example.
lot of people personally who would get scarred if they know like, are you adopted?
Yeah.
yeah, if like,
Guys, I would like to give an example. Sorry to interrupt. It's like whenever a Bengali has like a somewhat of an East Asian or Southeast Asian look to him or her, people are like, "Oh, are you Chakma? You look kind of Chinese.
Bro,
Are you
yeah,
even Bengali?"
that's the problem, man. It just wait. Why do they start even Bengali, man? That's just
Like,
fucking
what is that supposed to
yes.
mean? Like, if you speak
and
Bangla,
why
you're
would you even
Bengali.
ask that?
Exactly. Who has like Keno? Like why? For example, in our country, Chakma population is around 1.08% total. I don't
Hmm.
know the recent one.
It's
So
hard to,
yeah,
fully
it's very
measure
difficult.
it.
So like some of them come to Dhaka for higher education, right? All of us know that
Higher
because
education, employment,
everything will be it.
everything.
In many offices, the people from a different tribe or different color don't even get promoted just because they belong to a different tribe.
Hmm.
How's that fair, man? How's that
That
fair?
is
Like
For
we know
example, if
gender inequality is a thing in Bangladesh. We all know that
it's there, man. It's
it's there,
everywhere.
but
It's
yeah.
fucking everywhere.
also include like these types of like tribal disputes, and it's like even worse.
Even there was a act in Chittagong Hill Track. There was a rule then came up about a very big riot took place back in around 2011 or something.
Hmm.
So since then, the government actually took steps to reduce these things. Yet we don't change. The people don't change. See, even if the government they're trying their best to reduce it, but if as individuals we don't change
But the
ourselves,
people need to change.
nothing is gonna change.
So
Yeah,
For example, if you're university, like we have benches, right? We're sitting, and if someone dark skin or even a chakma comes up and sits beside us, there I think at least 10 to 15% of people are gonna go and change their seat.
or they're
yeah,
just gonna do this.
Yeah.
yeah. They're just gonna move to the side.
Yeah,
And I
and
would
this
like to.
also wait, let me
Yeah,
finish.
okay,
This
sure,
also
sure.
is applicable in like while applying for jobs. Like Chakma people have the surname Chakma. So it's like while applying, if someone sees the surname Chakma, they're instantly just gonna ignore that. Like they ignore the person that is and the
Yeah.
CV, even if they are qualified,
It's
even if they're
subconscious. It's pretty
overqualified.
subconscious.
It's just I would like to
It's
add that
subconscious, Saqib. It's in the head.
it's
This also
basically
true for Hindu names as well,
yeah.
just non-Muslim names
Like
in
maybe
general.
nowadays it's a little less, but it's still significant and it's still a problem that we have to solve.
So we talked a lot about like all the bad things in life, okay? And I think I said this quote once before in the podcast. I think it was in like the domestic abuse.
Yeah.
It's basically racism is not inherent, okay? We are not born into this world like, oh, I'm just pick like, oh, I'm gonna be a racist. No, that shit doesn't happen. We are like not taught in an extremist case. Yes, we might be taught, but it's like an environmental thing. The people
We learn
around
from
you
our
shape what you are.
environment.
We learn from
Yeah.
what
The
we see.
people around us.
Yeah. So fortunately, I've been raised in an environment where people are not like that. Thankfully.
Yeah.
So not many people will have this kind of fortunate upbringing
Yeah.
in general, or they will have like a very slightly different viewpoint of mine. So what my main point is that even though you have been, you kind of know that racism might be right for you, maybe if you do a lot of dark jokes, yes, racism, joking about racism and dark jokes is the main part of the whole joke itself, but that doesn't matter in the real world. So my point is that whether you are young, old, or middle-aged, or Jerry, you should like learn how to like cope up with the modern standard and like try to be a better person better
So
person in general.
I feel like
essentially what you're trying to say is like over time, as we keep on evolving, we start to realize that some things which are present in our society are
Is
actually
not
racist, and older people need to learn that, like saying some things, saying some words are like wrong.
We talked a lot about bad things that happen in the world and on a daily basis, but I'm going to shed some light into this. People aren't born racist. The environment makes us into racist, okay? It's not like if you're an extremist, yes, you might learn from your older relatives or something, but it doesn't matter. People have the will to change. If we want, we can change. So whether you are like in your 90s on your deathbed, or a 10-year-old
kid.
drawing, or just a kid, you could still change that ideology in your head. You could be much more open, or you could not. That's your decision, but it's better if you take that decision, okay?
I mean, I feel like it is necessary because it's like if the parents and the grandparents don't change themselves, it's gonna be difficult because a lot of the kids could see their grandparents use like those racist slurs and be like, "Oh, don't
Okay,
go near black
so
people."
Or
you have
the
a good
kids,
point. So
or
and they'll become racist themselves.
yeah, or
No,
or
like, let me continue.
Saqib, Saqib.
it's getting
yet.
better gradually, which is like very slow, but it's actually getting better. You know,
Yes.
the generation just before us also learned. They're getting aware of the recent activities that have been taking
Mhm.
place. Even the media is promoting about the racism and all the bad things that they do. See, at times people end up being racist without even realizing it. So people are actually
It's
now
best to call
learning.
them out.
And you know, a lot of documentaries are being made in all languages all around the world. So change is coming. It might be a bit slow, but it is actually taking place.
and it's
And
going.
I believe that it's a result of globalization as we interact more with each other, and because of the internet, as we interact more, we can get to know other people of
also
different
one thing
races.
which is very important is that the change is not only coming in our generation and the future as well, but also in the generation that was just before us. For example, the generation of our parents, even they're becoming aware of it.
Millennials, and Gen
And they're
Xers.
actually trying to change, and they're actually teaching their children not to be bad or not to be racist or not to behave badly with anyone just because they belong to a different race, color, or other religion.
Yeah, and like
Okay, so I have
Saqib
a
said,
point to make.
yeah, go on.
So, as you guys were saying that, another point is that if your parents don't want to change, you know who can make them change? You.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I like my mom's a bit on like the
Basically,
side, on like
As
some
in, she was
things.
ignorant
Yeah, she
and
was a
she
bit
was
ignorant on like
unknowingly
some aspects.
racist.
Yeah,
But-
Like, she was unknowingly racist.
Yes, she was unknowingly racist. But after I like called her out, I then explained it to her. Although it took me like a whole week, she finally gets what I meant that thing.
Yeah,
I
she
wasn't
she
being-
understood it. That's a big thing.
Yeah, she understood. At first, she thought I was like disrespecting her, but after like slowly encouraging it, she actually got to know what I was meaning. Yeah. Also, it doesn't fall into racism. What about like transgender people? What about like people who are?
I mean, just in
homosexuals?
general, people who are like different. It's like for some reason, Bengali society needs everyone to conform, and if they see someone who's different, either racially or like in terms of gender or like or
And
other
I would argue
other
it's not
aspects,
just the Bengali society. It's more like people, all
but
over.
it's I mean, I agree that it's everywhere, but it's like it's more intense in like a homogeneous society like Bangladesh, where it's like
Yeah.
98% Bengali and about like 89% Muslim. It's even more intense in Bangladesh, where it's like there's a huge pressure for people from different backgrounds who are not Bengalis or like who are not Muslim to conform to like the mainstream society,
Yeah. That is
or
quite
else
true.
they're basically outcasts.
Yeah, like maybe in a more diverse, like maybe
Sorry,
in a more diverse region, like let's say in Europe, it's not as
I would
Actually,
like
never
to
mind.
see that a
I
better
have to cut
example
that
is like
point.
American cities. Like for
Yeah.
example, New
Europe
York.
is
New
racism.
York. I mean, for example, in New York, it's one of the most diverse cities in the world, and it's like over there, people appreciate the fact that other people from different cultures
Yeah.
can interact, and they believe that it makes their city more beautiful.
Yeah, even in Texas, people respect everyone, like different, even if they're from a different country. But in many other states as well of the America or even Europe, if despite, for example, even a lot of Bengalis over there have the citizenship, right? So if you're waiting in a queue for a taxi, the people will go to the white skinned people first before you, despite the fact you have a citizenship. So it's there everywhere to some extent, but
It's
a lot
everywhere.
of yeah, it's everywhere.
It can't be helped.
But it
Racism-
shouldn't be.
Yeah. See, simple thing. None of us are responsible for the skin color that we have. No one is. It's on the nature that they give you. So
Or
just
even our culture, or even
Exactly.
our race.
so just
Even in the
because of
location we
skin
live
color
in.
or the culture of the quality of a person or how that person is, it cannot be judged. Racism in simplest way, if I describe, it's a pandemic that is not ending. It's a pandemic.
I
that is
mean,
not
I feel like it has a lot to do with the fact that whenever we see someone different, we have like a stereotype of them in order to simplify
ending.
those
Defensive
people.
somewhat.
Yeah,
Rather
instead
than-
of getting to know them individually, we have like the stereotype, and a lot of that is because of the media and also because of movies. For example, there are so many American movies with like where like the diverse character or like the foreign character is like it's basically like a racist caricature.
Yeah, and
Where
like this is
Yeah.
why a lot of people push for more representation. Like, come on, when for example, when Black Panther released, it actually caused a lot of respect, an increase in respect for Black people in general.
Mm.
Because of
Wakanda.
how influential the
Yeah, the
movie
black
was.
people basically love the idea of a black superhero because they grew up like seeing
Watching
white
white
superheroes,
people.
and now
Also,
they need a
Miles
role model.
Morales.
And they need a role model.
yeah, they were happy.
Yeah.
What about
Like they were
Spider-Man?
happy about the
Miles
fact that
Morales?
someone looking like them on screen. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
And
Miles
I would like
Morales
to say
too.
that movies actually have a great impact on our psyche because, for example, in Bangladesh, like for example, a few movies about the Liberation War, which show like what Hindus went through, or like the movie that I just watched, Chitro Nodir Pare, Quiet Goes the River, Chitro, is basically it basically makes people aware regarding like the plight of the Hindus. It's about what happened to Hindus during like the East Pakistani era, and it basically makes mainstream society understand what minorities go through. And it's not, and we still need to improve, because in terms of indigenous people, how many indigenous people do you see in high posts, in like huge positions?
Very few.
Okay, so we talked a lot about how we are huge hypocrites and how we need to improve. So I would like to end this with people, where I would like to tell people that in order to end racism, and at least in our society, we have to look within ourselves and look at our actions and see whether we are like subtly or even intentionally racist, or whether we have like this negative stereotype which just isn't true. And over time, we need to teach our own kids to, treat people from different backgrounds, just backgrounds in general, not necessarily race or religion, in the same manner. And then we need to teach kids to see people on an individual basis, and not just judge them by their community or the past actions of their community.
Yeah.
And that's literally it. That's all we need, and hopefully we can improve. And over time, if there's racism in the system, we have to help the government, and we have to push for more legislature and more laws which actually protect minorities and make sure that people are like treated equally and are protected from bias,
Yeah.
just in general. And I would like to end
Okay,
I would like to end with this, and I would also like to add that if you guys have witnessed any racial incidents, or if we missed anything, mention it in the comments below, or just
remember,
message
Jay,
us.
you yourself need to change first for the society to change. So don't think
Yeah.
if I change myself, will others do it or not? Don't think like that. Think I need to bring the change and I'll bring it in.
Yeah, we
Thing
need to
is
start
that
on a we need to start on an individual level.
don't think
And
about others.
guys,
Yeah.
You yourself do it, and everyone else will change. They will follow.
and
Eventually.
guys, for those
Guys,
who
guys,
do the
I
right
would like to
thing,
end it
Spongy will always be
on a
happy for
note
you.
that
Okay.
what Nihal
One
said,
person
that
speak.
Let him speak,
I have
Kashyap.
a fucking headache, and listening to you guys talk is just making it worse.
Shut up, Kashyap.
same here, bro.
আমি শুরু করছিলাম।
Shut up,
Shut
Wait,
up.
কাশাফি শুরু করছিল. That's true.
Okay, shut up, Raphael.
So guys, so whoever is good and who makes a change, Spongy will always be happy. Okay.